Welcome to the Monday, July 18th, regular business board meeting of the Board of School Directors. I will now turn the meeting over to, I will have audience recognition. If anyone's interested in speaking, please sign in with Ms. LaPere. I'm assuming no one has, I don't see anyone out front. And so now I will, am I turning over to you?
Board President.
Oh, okay, so we're moving right along here. All right, so I want to approve the minutes from the following Board of School Directors meetings. June 13th, regular business board meeting, and accept the following committee meeting minutes, July 14th, Facilities and Purchasing Committee. Are there questions? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
There's second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Now for our superintendent update.
Well, good evening, everyone, and happy summer. Good to see you all here. But we still have some things to report that took place towards the end of the school year. So I want to offer congratulations to the Harridan and Lower Merion High Schools TSA teams for their outstanding performances at the recent 2016 National TSA Conference in Nashville. Both schools earned top 10 event finishers at a conference attended by 5,000 of the top qualifiers from TSA chapters nationwide. Additionally, Harriton's Etan Ginsberg earned an individual national championship in the chapter team written category, a test designed to evaluate a student's knowledge of parliamentary procedure. Future board member, I guess. Harridan TSA was also awarded the American Cancer Society Spirit of Service Award for raising over $1,000 for the American Cancer Society this season. Also like to recognize the highest finish by an Lower Merion School District high school team was third place overall in the Children's Stories category by Lower Merion High School team of Vanessa Roser, Vivian Klotz, and Olivia Johnson. The trio wrote, illustrated, and published an original children's book. So even though it's summer, we're still getting some achievements.
Awesome.
Would you like me to do the
HR.
HR? So under section 7, the superintendent recommends the Board of School Directors approves the attached human resources actions HR 1 through HR 4.
Are there questions? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
There's second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Under educational services, I'd like to take items A through D in one motion. The administration recommends that the Board of School Directors approves the school overnight trips. Further, the administration recommends that the school board directors approves the payment for the attached one-time fee to True North Logic for completion and customer sign of the user acceptance testing of employee evaluation management and SLO management in the amount of $20,280. Administration further recommends the Board of School Directors approves the attached contract with Peter Noonan for Professional Learning Consortium training for the 2016-2017 year, not to exceed $10,500. And finally, the administration recommends that the Board of School Directors approves the attached quote for Pearson for Social Studies American Government licenses and resource materials for an amount of $35,212. The digital courseware licenses are good for 6 years.
Are there questions? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
There's second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Under Student Services, recommended action on items A through E. The administration recommends that the Board of School Directors approves the Educational Services Agreements SS1 through SS17. Let's see. Administration recommends that the Board of School Directors under C, the amount independent consultants contracts SS18 through SS20. D, the administration recommends that the Board of School Directors approve the attached independent consultant contract with Dr. Timothy A. Woods in the not-to-exceed amount of $35,000 for physician services from July 1st, 2016 through June 30th, 2017, and the administration recommends that the Board of School Directors approve the attached independent consultant contract with Dr. Jean Stanley in the not-to-exceed amount of $50,000 for professional development and counseling services from July 1st, 2016 to June 30th, 2017.
There are questions? I did have a question, Mr. Copeland, for the Dr. Woods contract. Are we short? What's his role?
I'm going to look at Mrs.
Ms. Frazier.
Yeah, hi.
Oh, Mike's over there. Fantastic.
How about that? The first. So Dr. Woods actually does some of our pre-employment physicals, does standing order for EpiPens for us,
Okay.
does the Department of Transportation regulations for our bus drivers and our bus aides in terms of physical exams and required screenings.
Okay.
Also oversees some of the medical documentation for our access billing for students with special needs. So it's a critical role within
So
the
he's
district.
been with the district for some time then. I just must have missed that he wasn't new.
Annual,
All right.
it's an annual.
Okay,
need.
fantastic. Thank you.
You're
Any additional questions? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
There's second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We will now have the report of the Facilities and Purchasing Committee by Mr. Driscoll.
Thank you, Dr. Van Lynch. Facilities and Purchasing met this past Thursday, July 18th. We began the meeting, as always, reviewing and approving the list of bills. We then reviewed and approved the purchasing report. It had 3 items on it. One item is for IT Security Solutions to add security doors and cameras at the DAO for $17,117. Another contract is for IT Solutions to add security doors and cameras for the modules at Penguin Elementary for $11,478. The two needs, obviously, are these modulars and the DAO become more online for student use to have secure access for our staff and cameras to monitor the situation. The third item was a contract with Provision Video Systems to install cameras on, I think, 95 Lmsd buses for $268,671.25. Occasionally, issues arise on our school buses, and the administration doesn't always have adequate information to resolve the issues. Having these cameras will give the administration additional information. We did have a very long conversation about this at the facilities meeting, but I think we did, at least as a committee, 3 out of 4 agreed to bring it here tonight. I do want to comment, all 3 of those were bid negotiated through state-approved consortium bidding agencies. We then moved on to review and approved a renewed contract for Reconstructive Orthopedic Associates to provide 2 full-time and 2 part-time trainers for both Harriton High School and Lower Merion High School. The trainers provide pre-event support, i.e. taping an injured joint, as well as assistance if an injury occurs during an event. This is a renewal contract, but it does add 2 part-time trainers beyond last year's 2 full-time trainers to accommodate all of our athletics at both high schools. We then reviewed and approved a renewal contract with NovaCare Rehabilitation to provide 2 trainers for Welsh Valley and Ballackinwood Middle School. Again, both some pre-event preparation and if an injury occurs during an event. We then went on and reviewed and approved a 1-year renewal license with Kronos for $50,239.34. This is a renewal contract. We've been using Kronos for several years, and this software is used to record time and attendance and thereby assist in payroll functions. We then reviewed and approved a second contract with Kronos to upgrade the district from the existing version 6 to version 8 at a cost of $29,370. As was discussed at the facilities meeting, Kronos is accessed via web browser, and certain security issues may arise from using older web browsers that support Java plugins. As web browsers and Oracle are moving away from supporting Java plugins, the district needs to move to a more modern version of Kronos and modern version of web servers to obtain the functionality we need, as well as maintain sufficient security measures. We then reviewed, and approved a 1-year contract with Netrix to provide system monitoring software for the district servers for $27,306. I'm going to oversimplify and say that this provides administrative level insights into the district's computer network and sends alerts to IT staff if suspicious or unwarranted behavior is noticed. We then moved on to review and approve a contract to purchase an updated version of IronPort from ePlus for $25,541.02. IronPort is an email filtering software package that targets suspicious email and blocks it before it gets into our servers. the district reported at, the administration, excuse me, reported at the facilities meeting that we blocked approximately 1.7 million such emails in a 30-day period. So this is pretty useful for us. We then went on to discuss, reviewed and approved 7 district contracts, some of which we've already voted on. The first was with Wilson Training, not to exceed $18,000. This is a renewal contract for professional development licenses. The second is for Timothy A. Woods, not to exceed $35,000. A renewal contract for Dr. Woods to conduct certain medical exams on some staff as required by law, and some students upon enrollment as needed. We then reviewed and approved a contract with Gene Stanley for at an hourly rate of either $5.25 or $2.25. It's a renewal license to provide professional development for our staff on social-cultural identities and social-emotional support. We then reviewed and approved a contract with Lovis Institute, again at an hourly rate of either $165 or $115. This is a renewal services contract to provide IEP, home ABA instruction, and home program coordination. We then reviewed and approved the True North Logic contract for $29,280. It is also a renewal contract to provide professional development to our staff. We reviewed and approved the Peter Noonan contract not to exceed $10,500. This is to support professional learning communities for our elementary schools. And finally, we did review the Pearson contract for $35,212. It's a five or 6 year, I think I got it wrong. Is it 6? I apologize. It's a 6-year renewal contract for e-textbooks and social studies. We then went on to review and approve an amendment to the MSA, Master Services Agreement, and an individual work order with Chester Valley Engineers for a not-to-exceed amount of $19,000. We are retaining Chester Valley to survey Bala Cynwyd Middle School as part of our exploration of options regarding our enrollment growth. We then reviewed and approved a contract to lease 74 printers, copiers, scanners from RICO for a 4-year term for $890,620.76. These devices will be distributed around the district to provide printing, copying, as well as scanning. It was discussed during the meeting that as the district moves to a more electronic environment, the district's need for paper-based printing and copying has decreased in the last several years. There is hope we can continue that movement. I do want to note RICO was the lowest responsible bidder from 8 bidders received. We then went on and reviewed and approved a lease contract for Marion Mercy Academy to lease the gymnasium at Marion Elementary for the winter for some of their winter sports for $50 per use at approximately $1,400. Marion Mercy will have renovations done to its gymnasium and would like to use the Marion Elementary Gymnasium for winter sports practices and I think games as well. Just practices, my apologies. And basketball. But I think it's mostly because they're having renovations done and they need space. And I think being a good neighbor, we're helping them out. We then reviewed and approved a renewal lease agreement with the Montgomery Early Learning Center for $23,400. As most of us know, MELC rents space from each of the 6 elementary schools to support early morning and after-school programs. But we did mention that I believe that the regular day program at MELC has been moved out of all 6 buildings due to our enrollment growth. Finally, we then reviewed and approved the following change order for Penwyn Elementary, an increase of $90,000 for moving the seepage bed and the stormwater management tank to the parking lot in Suffolk, adding additional security fencing, additional asphalt walkways, and asphalt restoration of the Suffolk parking lot. Sounds like a big number. We're still kind of getting this project underway, and it just started a couple weeks ago. And we do expect some changes, additional changes as we progress. We then received information on our existing construction projects. Welsh Valley, Penn Valley, and Gladwin. Penn Valley has closed out, finally. The final documentation for Gladwin is still being evaluated, and the district has reached agreement on some open issues with respect to Welsh Valley, but unfortunately additional issues remain, so we were not able to close that out at this time. We discussed the DAO. Unfortunately, the DAO construction that's going on right now. Unfortunately, we've learned that our casework supplier may be 2 weeks late in delivering our casework, which may have other scheduling impacts. Everything else is on schedule. We'll have to just see how that pans out. We just learned of it very recently, and hopefully we can make adjustments and deal with that. Finally, we did talk about temporary classrooms at Penwyn. As discussed, the above change order included moving the stormwater basin from the playing field to Suffolk lot. I believe the modulars are on site and were to be installed very soon, and construction on the sidewalk along Trent Road has begun. Excuse me. That concluded our meeting, and our next purchasing meeting will be for August 11th at 8:30 in this room.
Under Business Office and Finance section, I'm going to take items B through F in one motion unless the board member would like me to separate any of those action items. Seem there.
Vic, could you separate C, the MELC contract for me?
Well, I'm just doing the Business Office
Oh,
and
okay.
Finance right now, so I'm just doing B through F under that section. I'll come back and do the other. Okay, so under Business Office and Finance, I'm going to take items B through F in one motion. The administration recommends the Board of School Directors approve the following action items. Approve the list of bills, approve the financial report for June 2016, receipt of the fourth quarter student activities report, approve the donations pursuant to policy 702 for the following: donation of $1,000 from David and Haley Edelman to Walsh Valley Middle School, donation of $7,100 to Penn Valley Elementary, from the Penn Valley Elementary Home and School Association. That is for $5,000 for the gift of laptops, $1,100 to the school library, $500 for a buddy bench from the class of 2015, $500 for a buddy bench from the class of 2016, donation of $6,666 from the Education Foundation of Lower Merion to purchase video production equipment for the benefit of Harriton and Lower Merion High Schools, and donation of $9,000 from Kinwood Elementary Home and School Association towards the purchase of new tables and chairs for the library. And the final item is declare surplus equipment as surplus property and authorize the disposition thereof.
Are there questions? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
There's second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. I just want to also echo Mr. Orlando with gratitude to the Edelman family, Penn Valley HSA, Lower Merion Education Foundation, as well as the Kenwood HSA for their very generous donations on our behalf. Okay, Mr. Orlando?
So for facilities and operations, so we have items A through M. And again, I'll take them in one action item unless a board member would like me to separate any items. And since I heard a couple,
So A,
A,
we want to do separately.
okay,
And was there another one, Dr. O'Leary?
and C.
A and C.
Okay.
Are there others? Okay.
Okay, so we'll do item A first. The administration recommends the Board of School Directors approve the purchase report as per the attachment for the following items: Linnell door and camera security controls at the District Administration Building and also at Penwood Elementary School, and also the school bus security camera system on the district school buses for the amount and contract is specified herein to the lowest responsible bidder.
Okay, questions on A? Please.
Thank you. First, as Ben mentioned, we had an opportunity at the facilities meeting to ask a lot of questions. I appreciate the time that we spent there. And the board also had an opportunity to ask for a Q&A in our information session. And so, Robin, thank you very much for allowing that time. First and foremost, I want to thank Aldous Vilsons for his very patient and thoughtful responses to my 1,000 questions. I feel I was the member of the Facilities Committee who did not vote to move this forward for approval, and I think I'm still going to resist voting for approval, but I think I feel 1,000 times better about it now than I did before, and I'll throw out an idea, and perhaps this might be able to work. Right now, my biggest concern has to do with communicating the fact that we're going to have these cameras on our buses and making sure that all our families know what's going to happen. So I'm thinking, originally I was going to suggest that we pilot it at every school, but perhaps what we might want to do is install them and then just wait to turn them on until we've had an opportunity to really inform the families in the district what's happening, give them an opportunity to respond. If I had 100 questions, and it was pretty close to 100 questions. I'm sure there are parents who are going to have kids on these buses who are going to have questions and may want an opportunity to ask. So maybe we go forward, we install them, and then we just delay the actual implementation until maybe after the open houses, or maybe just give us a full week of school before we get it started. I'm really, I think it's really, really important that we've given our families an opportunity to understand the value. I mean, let them speak to Oldest for 10 minutes, and I'm sure he'll convince them how that they're worth putting in. But as I said earlier, maybe my fingers are a little burned from being around for so long, but I just think it's really important that we have communicated this fully before we implement it. So if someone's willing to approve that as a condition, I would vote to approve. But if we're not going to include that as a condition, then I'm going to vote to not approve.
So I want to get all the questions on the floor first, Diane, and then if there is an amendment to the motion, is that how it would work, Ken? If that would,
Well, there hasn't been a motion yet. So.
oh, okay, once we motion.
Yeah, right now, you're approving a contract, so. Yeah,
So what's on the table?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so Dr. Gilbert, please.
Yeah, I'm just a little confused because in the policy meeting, when we discussed this in January, I wasn't at the facility meeting last week. It's only last week, yes, that discussed this. But in the policy meeting, we talked about having a communications plan to ensure that all of our families and students and bus drivers and teachers and everybody, all of our stakeholders would be informed, of the policies as well as the purpose. So I'm not sure why that's part of this. That would be part of this motion. I think that's something that we do as we bring out, and I agree it's important that we do that. And I think we discussed this. It would have to, in terms of how it would be rolled out. So I'd be assuming that there would be a communications plan that went along once we made the decision. I would like to hear from perhaps Dr. Eveslag as a principal, a high school principal, and a former high school principal and a former middle school principal, about why the administration is recommending this and how that would have played out on buses at both the high school and the middle school levels as well, and perhaps you could fill us in on some of the issues around elementary school. But if you could give us some sense of what kinds of things have been going on and why it might be something why the administration is recommending it to deal with those issues.
Sure. So first and foremost, it's being considered and it would be supported by the principals for health and safety reasons. To better inform the building administration in investigating concerns that are on the bus. Issues on the bus are very difficult to reconstruct with student populations changing by the ride, student seating arrangements changing day to day, and quite honestly, just recollection of details. And so there are several issues regularly at all three levels of bus issues that are difficult to resolve, and many issues we're unable to finalize and resolve because of limited information. So the hope is we've vetted this system with the audio and video to be able to reconstruct issues that were perhaps the physical in nature or verbal in nature, bullying or students being victimized in any way, or health and safety risks to the driver that pose obviously a risk for any students on the bus, that would allow administration to more accurately investigate and follow through to support a safer ride home.
Thank you. Could you just give an idea of how many incidents you might have used this with last year at Harrington, just
Sure.
estimates or
Uh,
potentially at middle schools?
At Harrington, there were probably 8 to 10 incidents last year that we're unable to resolve because of limited information. Some issues we will investigate and be able to determine some type of administrative action. In middle school, I found the volume of frequency of that to be much higher. There just there are the buses tend to be a little more populated, and there'll be a little more action on the buses at the middle school level, and so there'll be a frequency of reports. And then the issues that are really challenging at both the middle school and the high school level are the late buses, the 4:30 and 5:30 buses, where the audience on the bus is not consistent, and the drivers are less familiar with the students that are on the bus. It's later in the afternoon, and the inconsistency leads to a lot more unresolved issues.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Additional questions? Dr. O'Leary?
Again, I want to thank the administration and particularly facilities for taking the time to go through and answer questions and make sure that we have a lot of information. Can you talk a little bit, I know we piloted this program, can you talk a little bit about how that was communicated to the families when we piloted the program?
Yeah, we basically sent letters home to the families of the students who were on the bus indicating that we were going to be piloting this program, the cameras were going to be on the buses, and so they just went to those families.
So are you anticipating, it's one thing to send a policy in a big stack of stuff that comes at the beginning of the year, it's another thing to emphasize it, it's another thing to send email, like what are we thinking of doing in terms of notifying parents?
So I was just listening to some of the conversations that were going on. The only concern I would have about holding off for a week is that it's the first week of school that you often get a lot of issues, particularly with young kids on the bus, where this might actually be not just a discipline help, just making sure everybody's where they're supposed to be and so forth and so on. Clearly, people are in a different mindset in July and August than they might be at some other time. So even though they're going to get an email blast about this meeting, about if it's approved, this adoption, then there's another time that we send out a letter. There's a packet that goes out August 24th-ish. But you're right, that will be with a lot of things. If this is approved, we are going to do a calendar this year with some information. It would be on that, and I would recommend perhaps a follow-up letter just to bus parents. Now, I'm not sure, we don't do bus passes in Lower Merion, do we? But there is a bus assignment, correct? So
Right, that comes with that packet of
that
stuff.
seems to me the place that you would want to make that so that that goes directly there with phone numbers of people to contact if they had any questions, starting with the principal, frankly.
I should have asked this initially. There also is a sign on the bus that says, or will be, that
There will
says
be a
cameras.
sign on the bus that says that there is surveillance cameras and audio.
May I just suggest that I agree with you on that, because I was thinking that one of the pieces of information you really look at is what number of the, what number to tell your kid to get on the bus. And so if the information is right next to the number,
It's not the letter from the superintendent?
of course it's the letter from the superintendent. But after that, and after the, especially elementary school,
Cafeteria.
welcome from the teachers and, all that stuff, the list of stuff you have to buy, it's the bus number. And so if there was something that was just right there, that would maybe point them to another place they could get more information, that might help.
Mr. Driscoll?
Thank you.
Mr. Driscoll, please.
Thank you. I was going to, either Bob or Aldous, to kind of, because this is another meeting of some of the incidents that have been reported, but were difficult in the past year, that were difficult to resolve. But I think some examples might help understand where we're going and why this is important.
It is, but first let me hasten to add, it's not as though, we've got rampant disciplinary situations. In fact, some of these situations start small. You can't get them clarified, but they take an enormous amount of time away from people. There are some serious situations that have occurred with projectiles being thrown in the bus. That's rare. But there are those kinds of situations. So with the younger kids, it's a little, you got 3 kids in a seat, and it's who's pushing who and who's pushing that. There are accusations that somebody's bothering somebody. And then there are kids who smoke on the bus, who shouldn't smoke on the bus, and do other kinds of things on the bus that they shouldn't do on the bus. And it's just a huge amount of time. You also, I would argue, don't want your bus drivers sort of keeping one eye, one place and another eye someplace else. You want them focused on the driving, and I think they'll feel comfortable knowing that there's going to be a record of what took place later on that they can refer back to.
Do you have a follow-up?
No,
Did you have a follow-up?
But I can wait till.
Okay. Mr. Fetterman?
Yeah, thank you. This is Aldous. I just want to thank you and the administration for the really detailed presentation, not only at the facilities meeting, but also at Q&A earlier. I did have a question I didn't have a chance to ask you before, but in terms of the useful life, it's more a nuts and bolts question. In terms of the useful life of these cameras that we're purchasing, do you anticipate some kind of obsolescence when they'll all have to be replaced? Or that was a question I had concerning whether you want to buy them all at once or implement them so that they don't all go out of, get obsolete all at the same time. I'm just curious if that is a consideration. Or
There is, sorry. They are under warranty for 5 years, and then I've been talking to districts, many of them run 10, 12 years. It's not going to be mechanically out, it's probably going to get technologically outdated eventually. That you know how technology advances these days. I mean, it's
right.
It's just gonna get old technologies. That's why we're trying to go for high-def cameras at this point, that we can prolong the period.
I mean, for instance, the high-def cameras that we're purchasing, how long have they been sort of on the market in their current form?
With this particular company, and that's why I recommended this company, is they already have had it for 3 or 4 years. Other companies just starting. That we were supposed to have 3 pilots, but one of the companies said they just couldn't get it where they could give us and feel that it will work properly. So they have an established track record, this company.
So you feel comfortable that this is good for at least 5 years?
Easily 5. I expect it to last for a lifetime of the bus, because even if something happens to a camera, we don't have to replace a whole system. We just replace a camera, which is not as big of the cost.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, please.
Just since you're there, one of my other questions was, anecdotally, we will not be the first district in Pennsylvania to add cameras if we approve this tonight. What's your sense of the other districts and what they're doing with cameras on buses? Or
it's I would safely say majority of the districts have cameras. All our surrounding Upper Marion School District has a same company that we do. We went out and looked at their cameras. They just don't have a high def, but the DVRs and the support and service is the same. East Different has cameras. They have different system. Radnor and Haverford have cameras. North Penn has cameras. Like I said, there's just one district I can think of that I know that doesn't have cameras now, but they probably will have it for next school year. I believe they're getting new buses. And when I talk, and actually I have even official permission, on my way to board meeting, I called Haverford because I wanted to know if all of their buses have cameras. And they said that by this September, they hope to have all buses equipped. And he said, I don't even imagine how we could live without them anymore. And I said, can I quote you? And he said, yes, please.
Please.
A couple follow-up questions. We did talk about this in policy in January, but even the board didn't know we were implementing it for the fall until we got the facility stuff on Thursday, on Wednesday before the Thursday meeting. So, you know, we do have to kick into gear in terms of communicating. I think putting it on those bus letters is a really good idea, because every parent does look at that and will read that. It doesn't give parents an opportunity to engage in conversation about them and discuss them. It does notify them. I would have preferred that we had an opportunity for the HSAs to have conversations about it or something. While as you say, there's a lot of school districts that use them, it's new to us, and so I think it would have been much better if we could have had an opportunity to have conversations in the buildings. The purchase order that we're looking at is for 95 buses, and in our Q&A you mentioned that we wouldn't be putting them in all of our buses, that the ones that we would be likely retiring in the next year or two would not get them.
Correct.
So does that change the number, the 95 number, or does 95 reflect
We
those?
have 120 buses, and once all the buses come in that ordered this year, will be up to 122. So 95 minus 122. Now I have to. So the buses that are the difference, those oldest buses won't be getting cameras at this installation.
Okay, so that 95 number
Stays
takes
the same.
takes into
Yes.
consideration the ones that aren't getting them.
Yes.
And so then the families who are getting the old bus, I imagine, do you use them in reserve? Are they on rate? Are they used every day? I mean,
10 of the buses are spare buses usually, but I mean, eventually I would like to have it. That's why I'm trying to get as fast as possible, because spare bus is usually different driver that's not used to run, so it's maybe more important even to have in a spare bus. But spare bus is not always determined by the age, so if we're gonna go with cameras, we're gonna go strictly by the age of a bus and according to our bus replacement plan. That way we are objective, we're not putting based on the runs or discipline or
right, and I think I'm happy with that, but the point that I'm trying to make is there are going to be some families for whom there are no cameras on the bus.
Yes,
and so we
for-
need to make sure that the letter reflects that not all, you know, which of the buses are going to have them, and for the ones that aren't going to have a camera on the bus, they should be notified that there's going to be cameras eventually, but that they don't have them now. Because there's going to start to be chatter. Kid's going to come home from school, tell mom or dad that you know they have cameras on the bus, and another kid's going to come home and not say we don't. And you know, it's just a way of letting the parents know that it's, you know, there are going to be some buses that don't have cameras. So I think that's an important piece of the whole communication thing. My other comments, I think, have pretty much been addressed.
Please, Mr. Driscoll.
All this, because as we discussed, some of the buses, I think you were at facilities where you were planning on not getting cameras because some of them have aids. And I was that, my understanding correct?
No,
I'm sorry. Could you-
yeah, I apologize. No, doesn't, aid situation can change. We discussed that, but my comment was aid situation can change. There may be one student with an aid, and then a student leaves or goes on different bus and aid is removed from a bus. Other thing is that if you investigative situations, aid won't be considered objective as a camera. So we're strictly looking by the age, and I would eventually, like I said, this will allow us 95 cameras. If vehicle with replacement plan goes as intended, we should have in 2 years, we should have it on every bus.
So if I'm understanding your last point, this is a balance of getting as many in our fleet cameraed, but not so many that they're on obsolete buses.
Yes, exactly.
Otherwise, this cost would be higher.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so this is
Exactly.
the best balance at this time for a new
Yes.
program. Okay.
Yes.
Please.
Just one other thing just popped into my head. Is it possible for us to get, maybe at 3 months and 6 months, a review of the number of incidents that we had on our buses, the number of times we found them? I mean, I think it would be very reassuring to know that, I mean, we're talking about almost $300,000. And for me personally, it would be very reassuring to know that we're really getting something for those dollars, other than, you know, the deterrent effect of having a camera there.
We should be
you-
able to provide.
Well, there's, I think we can do that, but, no, I understand, but to a certain degree, you're also, how do you, there's a counterfactual. So how do you take into account the incidents that don't occur because there was a deterrent?
Right, and you won't get that number, and I realize that. I just want to get a sense of the order of magnitude.
I would just, so we can do that, but my only thought is, I'm saying up front that if bus 8 doesn't have any incidents, it could very well be because bus 8 knew that they were being watched. Yeah. Even though our kids don't cause problems.
Sorry to keep, I do think we need to focus also, and I will give you a story that happened literally tonight. I was coming onto Montgomery Avenue. The light turned green for me. I started to enter the intersection because the outbound lane I was closest to had stopped. I swear to God, the inbound lane blew through the red light. I had a stale green. Now, this really happened. I don't know why it happened today, even though I've seen other red light runners. But I saw the car, so I was able to stop. If a driver was distracted in that instance, the driver would have continued in. So I understand the cost, but if we can stop, and again, this is the negative. If you can stop one incident, you can stop distracting the driver just once when somebody's running a red light. How do you put a dollar figure on that? And my second comment, we hear this all the time, not just with, but there's too much traffic, not just with school district, there's too much traffic. Too much traffic elevates everybody's stress level. I believe people are driving more aggressively. Anything we can do to give our bus drivers even a split second of peace might be all we need. That's my 2 cents.
Any additional questions? All right, so thank you for that deliberation. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Orlando.
Yes, I'm going to take the item C before we do the remaining items in one motion. The administration recommends the Board of School Directors approve the attached lease agreement with the Montgomery Early Learning Center for extended day child care sites at Lower Merion Elementary Schools for the period of September 1st, 2016 to June 30th, 2017 for the sum of $23,400.
There are questions? Please.
I just comment that out of an overabundance of caution, I abstain from this vote because I have a family member on the board of MELC.
Okay, thank you, Dr. O'Leary. Dr. O'Leary is abstaining. Ms. LaPera, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
There's second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? All right, got it. Okay,
Okay.
Mr. Orlando.
So I'm going to take items B and then D through M in one motion. The administration recommends the Board of School Directors approve the following action items. Approve a 4-year lease with Rico USA under PA CoStar's contract 001-114 to provide document management and copier services with a base amount of $890,621.76. And that lease agreement is subject to solicitor's review. Approve the agreement, the attached agreement with Reconstructed Orthopedic Associates for high school athletic trainer services for the period August 1st, 2016 through May 31st, 2017 for a sum of $137,193. Approve the attached agreement with Rehab Clinics, which does business as NovaCare, for middle school athletic trainer service for the period of September 12, 2016 through May 31st, 2017 for the sum of $35,472, and that agreement is subject to final solicitor's review. Approve the license agreement with Marion Mercy Academy for use of the Marion Elementary School Gymnasium for basketball practice for the period of November 18th, 2016 through February 28th, 2017 for a rate of $50 per use. Approve the First Amendment to the master agreement for professional services with Chester Valley Engineers, Inc. Approve the individual work order for professional services with Chester Valley Engineers, Inc. for a not-to-exceed fee of $19,000. Approve the quote from E+ for Ironport software for 1 year in the amount of $25,541.02. Approve the quote for renewal of the support services for Kronos, Inc. From September 26, 2016 through September 25, 2017, the amount of $50,239.34. Approve the quote and statement of work for service upgrade from Kronos, Inc. in the amount of $29,370. Approve the quote for Netrix for software products in the amount of $27,306, and approve the change order for Penn temporary classroom project.
Are there questions? I did have one question. Mr. Copeland, could you speak to the middle school trainers? I know this was discussed in facilities, but is this something new, or is this something we've typically had for our middle school student athletes?
My understanding is we have had middle school
This
trainers.
is the third year
Okay.
we would have this service.
Now, any concerns in terms of enrollment growth, that we have enough trainers to support the student athletes?
Now, I spoke with the Mr. Potton, and he was comfortable with the amount of services that we have
Okay.
available.
And same for Welsh Valley?
Same for Welsh Valley.
Okay, great. Any additional questions? Okay, is there a motion to approve? There's second? Second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Okay. New business, Board of School Directors. Administration recommends that the Board of School Directors approves the 2016 board meeting dates from September through December 2016 as listed. Do I have to say all those dates? No, thank you. Are there questions?
Are they listed somewhere?
They're listed on your agenda. Yeah. But third Monday of every month is essentially where we are, except if there's a Monday holiday that conflicts. Any questions?
As listed in the board docs.
As listed in the board docs. Thank you, Mr. Ruth. No questions. Is there a motion to approve? There's second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. In accordance with the administration, the Board of School Directors approves the appointment of myself, Dr. Robin Van Lynch, and Ms. Virginia Pollard as voting delegates for the Pennsylvania School Board Association 2016 Delegate Assembly held Saturday, October 15th, 2016. Are there questions? Or anybody else want to participate?
Thank you for volunteering.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Anytime.
Just a quick question. I think board members still can go not as a,
Absolutely.
as a non-delegate. That's the
Yes,
word I was thinking.
yes, you may, and you
If
are
in
more than
fact-
welcome to be a delegate as well. If
if,
you're interested. Just let Ms. LaPera know. She'll gladly sign you up. All right. But yes, absolutely, every board member is covered to attend the Pennsylvania School Board Association. We certainly would encourage it. Are you miking up, Mr. Bruce? Okay. Oh, okay, all right. No more questions. Is there a motion to approve? There's second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Now, Sunshine Act, Mr. Roos.
Well, no public participation for the second.
Non-agenda items.
If anybody moves to the podium, there's going to be a...
Right, so there was no public comment because we have only administrators, board members, and
Just
staff.
wanted it in the minutes,
But
that's
thank
all.
you very much, Mr. Roos, for that reminder.
And
So now
also-
Sunshine Act.
Thank you. The board did have an executive session prior to tonight's meeting to discuss assessment appeal litigation. Assessments appeals currently before the Court of Common Pleas and the Upper Merion appeal before the the PA Supreme Court.
Thank you. Upcoming meeting dates, August 11th, Facilities and Purchasing, 8:30 a.m. And August 15th, regular business board meeting, 8 p.m. in this room. If there's nothing further, we are adjourned. Thank you.